It's funny how memories work. Some stick with you, like the ones where I was little, sitting on the living room floor with a coloring book, the air thick with the smell of my mother's cooking, and the sounds of my cousins playing in the background. But there's one memory that never quite fades. The memory of him, Jordan, my cousin. The one I barely knew, but whose presence left a mark in ways I never understood. He was always there, just out of reach. Growing up, he was the older cousin, the one who didn't have time for the little ones. He'd always show up at family gatherings with this quiet confidence, like he'd seen more of the world than any of us ever would. He'd arrive, flash that charming smile, and just as quickly slip back into the crowd, as though he had other places to be. I was a kid then, so much younger, and I remember wondering why he never seemed to notice me. Maybe it was the age gap, or the fact that we were raised so differently. I was still playing with toys, and he was already talking about his life beyond this small town. He left, just like that. Moved across the country, got busy, made his own life. The rest of us stayed the same, always waiting for him to come back. And he did. Every now and then he'd come back. It was like he didn't need us, didn't need any of this. But when he was here, it felt like the world paused, just for a moment. The other cousins would crowd around him, asking questions, catching up, trying to get his attention. There was something different about Jordan. He was the one who seemed to know what life was about before any of us even had the chance to find out. He wasn't like the rest of us. He didn't belong here, or maybe we didn't belong with him. I think of the past. I think of that younger me, looking up at him from a distance, wondering if we could ever be close. And now as an adult, I wonder, could I ever really know him? Could I, for once, cross that line we never spoke about? But today I am going to find out. I have no idea how it will unfold, but as I sit here waiting, I feel the weight of 1,000 unspoken words between us. And for the first time, I'm not sure I can ignore them any longer. The house is quieter now, with the buzz of conversation fading into the background as the last of the guests trickle out. It's that time when the laughter begins to fade and the reality of the evening sets in. The family reunion is over, but the questions aren't. He's here, standing across the room, just like I remember him. Taller, older, more confident, but still Jordan. It's like nothing changed, and everything changed. His eyes catch mine for a moment, and it's as if we're both frozen. There's so much I want to say, but I don't know how. And I don't think he knows either. You staying for a bit? I ask, my voice softer than I intend. It's a small thing, a simple question, but it feels like more than that. It feels like I'm offering something. Something I'm not sure I should be offering. A chance to reconnect, maybe? Or a chance to lose what little of ourselves we have left. But I can't take it back now. And he doesn't answer immediately. For a moment, it feels like he's thinking about something, weighing his options. Yeah, he says after a long pause, his voice low. There's a hint of something in it. Maybe surprise, maybe relief. I can't tell. I don't have anywhere to be. I nod, but the words we don't speak are louder than anything either of us could say. There's something here, something heavy, something we both know but aren't ready to acknowledge. It's like walking on a tightrope, each step a little closer to something we can't take back, but I don't move. I stay in my place, as if staying here in this moment is the only thing I can control. The silence stretches on, and I find myself noticing things I didn't before. The way his shirt fits his shoulders, the way his hair falls just a little too long, the way his fingers twitch, like he's unsure of where to place them. He's nervous, just like me. And then he speaks, breaking the silence in a way that surprises me, his voice rough, like he hasn't used it in a while. I didn't expect this, he says, his eyes flicking to the door, to the empty hallway behind me. I didn't expect it to be like this. I don't know how to respond. What do you say to that? What do you say to someone who's been absent for so long and suddenly returns only to remind you that things are still different, that nothing's quite the same as it once was? I didn't think I'd see you again, I say quietly, the words spilling out before I can stop them. I mean, not like this. Maybe, he says slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. Maybe it's not too late. I don't know what he means by that, but I do know one thing. In that moment, my heart races, and I realize I've never been more unsure about anything in my life. The night has settled in, and the house is quiet now. I sit on the old wooden bench near the garden, my hands resting on my knees, my thoughts racing. Jordan is sitting beside me, but it feels like he's 1,000 miles away. Yet I can feel him, like a weight on my chest. I shift on the bench, trying to find the right words. My mind is a mess, full of questions I can't answer, thoughts I can't organize. But I need to say something, anything, because I can't stand the silence between us. I've been thinking, I begin, my voice low, hesitant, about all those years when we were kids. I used to watch you, I say. When I was younger, I used to watch you when you'd come home. You were always so different, so confident. I never knew what to say to you. I never knew if you even noticed me. I just watched you from a distance, wondering what it would be like to be close to you. But then you'd always leave, and I was left with this feeling that never went away. And now, I say, my voice shaking slightly, I feel like I'm still watching you, like I'm still waiting for something that will never happen. I stop, swallowing hard, the words heavy on my tongue. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe it's because I don't know what else to do. But I can't pretend anymore. I can't pretend that I don't feel this. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a longing. Maybe it's something more. But I know it's real. It's always been real. I feel the weight of it in every glance I steal at him, in the way my heart races every time he's near. Jordan's quiet for a long moment, and I think maybe I've said too much. Maybe I've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. But then he speaks, his voice low, almost hesitant. I didn't think it was just me, he says quietly, the words soft but clear. I didn't think you ever saw me like that. I thought I was the only one who felt out of place, who felt like we could never really be close. I've struggled with this, Jordan continues, his voice thick with emotion now. I tried to push it away. I thought if I just didn't think about it, it would go away. But it never did. And every time I'd see you, every time I'd come back here and see you, I knew I wasn't the only one who felt this pull. But it's not right, Justin. You know it's not. The words hit me like a physical blow. I can feel the heat in my chest, the pounding in my ears. His admission, his confession, makes everything feel more real, more urgent. But at the same time, it fills me with fear. This is wrong. This is a family bond, a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. I know, I whisper, barely able to speak. I know it's wrong, but I can't stop it. I can't stop thinking about you. Jordan finally looks up at me, and in his eyes, I see everything. His struggle, his guilt, but also something else, something deeper. His gaze is raw, vulnerable, like he's finally letting go of the mask he's been wearing for so long. We sit there for what feels like an eternity, the night stretching out around us, suffocating in its stillness. Jordan shifts slightly beside me, breaking the silence, his movements slow, almost deliberate. It's like he's giving me space, waiting for me to say something, to tell him this isn't right, to tell him to stop. But I can't. I can't say any of those things, not when the truth is beating against my ribs like a drum. Not when everything inside me is telling me that this moment is everything I've been waiting for. Justin, he says quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. It's not a question, not really. It's more like an invitation, a plea for something we both know we can't have, but both want with every inch of our being. You don't have to do this, but I think we both need it. I look at him, really look at him, and I see everything that's been left unsaid. I feel my breath catch in my throat. My heart is pounding so loudly in my chest that I'm sure he can hear it. And in that moment, I know what I have to do. I'm scared, I whisper, my voice barely audible in the quiet night. I'm scared of what this means. I'm scared of what happens next. Jordan doesn't respond with words. Instead, he reaches for me, his hand brushing gently against mine. And in that simple touch, something inside me breaks, and I feel myself leaning toward him, drawn in by the gravity of everything unsaid, everything held back. My breath hitches in my throat as his hand moves to the side of my face, his thumb tracing along my jaw, soft and slow. His touch is warm, and for a second, I forget everything. I forget the guilt, the fear, the consequences. All that matters in that moment is the way his hand feels against my skin. The way he's looking at me, soft, vulnerable, and full of longing. I can't pull away. I don't want to. And then, in a moment that feels like it's taken a lifetime to arrive at, I close the distance between us. My lips meet his, tentative at first, as if we're both testing the waters, unsure of what's on the other side. But then it changes. The kiss deepens, slow and urgent, like we've been waiting for this moment forever. Like we've been living in this tension for years, just waiting for the spark to ignite, for someone to make the first move. And I did. I couldn't wait anymore. My hands moved to his shoulders, pulling him closer, wanting to feel the heat of his body against mine. There's nothing gentle about it now. There's nothing tentative. It's raw, desperate, and filled with everything we've been holding back. My chest tightens as I pull him even closer, my heart racing in a way that feels like it might explode. This is what I've wanted. This is what I've been waiting for. And yet, even as I kiss him, I can't escape the guilt. I can't escape the nagging thought in the back of my mind that this is wrong, that this will change everything. But still I kiss him. And still he kisses me back. He reassures me with his touch, with the way his lips move against mine, that this moment, this kiss, is what we both need. I break away for a second, just enough to catch my breath, my forehead resting against his. My hands are still on his shoulders, my fingers digging into the fabric of his shirt. My heart is pounding, my body trembling with the intensity of everything that just happened. We're both breathing heavily now, the air thick with the weight of what we've just done. Are you sure? I ask, my voice trembling. Are you sure this is what we want? Yeah, he says quietly, his voice hushed but firm. I'm sure. The morning light feels different today. It's the same light that I've woken up to countless times before, but today it's almost unbearable. I turn my head slightly and see Jordan still lying next to me, his back turned, facing the other way. His breathing is steady. I try to move, but my body feels heavy. It's as if everything that happened last night has drained me, leaving me exhausted in ways I didn't know were possible. I steal a glance at him. His body is tense, his face turned away, and I can tell he's awake. But he doesn't look at me. Not yet. Finally, Jordan moves, shifting in bed. He clears his throat, the sound soft but deliberate. Justin. His voice is hesitant, unsure, like he's testing the waters before diving in. Yeah, I ask, my voice coming out thinner than I meant. He doesn't answer immediately. Instead, there's a long pause. I can hear him shifting, the rustling of sheets, but I don't turn to face him. I can't. I'm afraid of what I might see in his eyes, afraid of what my own eyes might betray. We're both trying to figure out what this means, but I can't help but think that maybe we're too far gone to go back. Maybe there's no easy way out of this. What do we do now? He finally asks, his voice low, almost a whisper. It's like he's afraid of the answer, afraid of hearing what I think. But it's the question that's been hanging in the air ever since we woke up, and neither of us has been brave enough to ask it. I close my eyes for a moment, trying to find the words. I want to tell him that we can pretend it didn't happen, that we can go back to the way things were before, but deep down I know it's impossible. I can't just erase what we've shared. Not now, not after everything, but I can't figure out how to make this right, how to make us right. I don't know, I whisper, my voice almost drowned out by the thick silence. I don't know what we're supposed to do. Jordan sighs, and for a moment I can feel the heaviness in his chest, like the weight of everything we've done is too much for him to bear. And maybe it is. Maybe it's too much for both of us. But I can feel him shifting beside me, the air around us charged with something new now, something that wasn't there last night. I want to break the silence, to say something to make this easier. But the truth is, I don't know how. All I know is that this isn't over. It's just beginning. The dinner table is unusually quiet. The food is untouched. The once bustling dinner table now feels like a place where secrets linger, where what's been said and what's been avoided is more important than any meal that could be served. My mother's voice cuts through the room. Justin. She says my name, and it's not a question, not the way it usually sounds when she's calling me for something simple. Is everything okay with you and Jordan? She asks, her voice softer now, almost too soft. But there's a tension there, a tightness that I can't ignore. I glance at Jordan, but his eyes are locked on the table. He looks small, diminished, like a man already bracing for what's to come. Justin, Jordan, is there something you're not telling us? My mother presses, her voice firm, but I can hear the tremor beneath the surface. My heart pounds in my chest, each beat louder than the last. I look at my mother again, her eyes now wide with a mix of confusion and something darker. Something I can't identify but know instinctively is not good. There's a flicker of realization in her face, and it's as if she's putting the pieces together in slow motion. And then she says the words that I know will change everything. Oh my God. She whispers it, but it's loud enough for everyone to hear. The rest of the family looks back and forth between the two of, "What the hell's going on here?" He snaps, his voice rising with the anger he's trying and failing to keep contained. "You two, what's happening between you?" "Justin, you're my son." My father's voice cracks with the weight of his own disbelief. "You're my flesh and blood, and you've betrayed everything we stand for, everything this family stands for. This is disgusting," he continues, his voice breaking with rage. "You've crossed a line. You've destroyed everything. Do you have any idea what this will do to this family? To your mother? To everyone who cares about you?" Then my mother stands up abruptly, knocking her chair backward in the process. Her eyes are filled with tears, but there's no softness in them. "I can't," she starts, her voice quivering but sharp. "I can't have this in my life, Justin. I can't. I won't allow this." Her hands shake as she gestures toward the door, as if she's trying to physically push us out of her life. The words she speaks next hit me like a punch to the gut, and I know that nothing will ever be the same again. "Get out, both of you. I never want to see you again." It feels like the earth beneath us has shifted, like we've been thrown into a void where nothing makes sense anymore. The world outside seems so distant, so foreign now. I never imagined it would come to this. Never imagined that the people who raised me, the ones I trusted most, could turn their backs on me so completely. I glance at him now, Jordan, my partner, my love, and for a moment the weight of everything falls away. There's no need for words. Not right now. We're both wondering what comes next. Wondering if we'll ever find a way to make peace with our families. Wondering if we'll ever be able to go back to the way things were. "Justin," he starts, his voice quiet, a little rough around the edges. It's like he's testing the waters, unsure of how to begin. "Do you ever think we'll be able to go back? To the family? Will they ever accept us again?" "I don't know," I say, the words slipping out like a confession. "I don't think we'll ever have that again. Not the way we had it before, but..." I pause, trying to find the right words, the right thing to say to give him hope, even if I'm not sure I have any myself. There's a gnawing emptiness deep inside, but there's also something else. something that makes me reach for his hand, pulling it into mine, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine. The connection, the bond we share, is more important now than ever. It's the one thing that hasn't changed, the one thing that remains steady in this world that feels like it's falling apart. But what I do know, I continue, my voice steadying, is that I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to pretending, to hiding, to being something we're not just so that they can be okay. I don't want that anymore, Jordan. I can't. I don't want to lose you just to make them happy. And I know. I swallow hard, trying to push through the lump in my throat. I know it's going to be hard. I know we'll face challenges that seem impossible. But I'd rather face them with you by my side than without you at all. The words settle between us, and I can feel his hand tighten around mine. There's a quiet acceptance in his gaze, as though he's already made peace with the idea of losing everything else, but finding something, someone to hold on to. We've both made a choice. It's not the easy choice, the comfortable one, but it's the one that feels right. We're in this together, no matter what. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all we need. You're right, Jordan says softly, his voice barely a whisper. We can't go back. And maybe we don't need to. Maybe what we've got right here, right now, that's enough. It has to be enough. We'll face it together, I whisper. No matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets, we'll face it together. Because what we have, this love, it's worth everything. We sit in silence for a while, our hands entwined, the weight of everything pressing down on us. There's so much to figure out, so many questions without answers, but there's no rush. We'll take it one step at a time. The future is uncertain, yes, but we have each other. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. As the night wears on, I lean my head against his shoulder, my eyes closing in exhaustion, but also in a quiet acceptance of the road ahead. I don't know what will happen next. I don't know if we'll ever find a way back into the arms of our family, or if they'll ever understand what we've done. But what I do know is that no matter what, we've chosen this. We've chosen each other. And somehow that feels like the only thing that matters now. As the night drifts on, we both sit there, caught between what we were and what we're becoming. There's no easy way to explain what's happening, no simple path to follow. The world outside hasn't changed. It continues to turn, indifferent to our pain, our choices. But in here, in this quiet, we find something else. A connection that defies everything we've been told, everything we've ever known. There's a beauty in it, a quiet kind of power that comes from knowing you've chosen to follow your heart, even when the world says you're wrong. But the thing about love, true love, is that it isn't ever simple. It's never just a straight line. There are always obstacles, always forces pulling at you, trying to break you apart. And even now, as we sit here, I can't help but wonder, what happens when love isn't enough? The truth is, there are still so many questions hanging in the air, unanswered. So many pieces of this story that haven't been written yet. What happens when the past refuses to let go? What happens when the weight of the world becomes too heavy? I feel a shift in the air, an uncertainty that makes my skin prickle. There's a tension, a nagging feeling in my gut that something isn't over. Maybe it's the way Jordan's been looking at me all night, like he knows something I don't. Or maybe it's the way I've been feeling like we're on the edge of something bigger than just us, something dangerous. Justin, Jordan says suddenly, his voice tight, his eyes distant. There's something I need to tell you. I turn to him, my heart skipping a beat. It's that tone, the one he gets when he's hiding something. I don't know what it is, but I can feel the weight of it in the air. My throat tightens as I wait for him to speak, for the words that will shift everything. What is it? I ask, my voice barely a whisper, afraid of the answer. Jordan pauses, his eyes flickering with something I can't place, something darker, maybe even fearful. Then he takes a deep breath, as if he's steeling himself for something he knows will change everything. "It's about my past," he begins, his voice strained. "There's something I didn't tell you. Something I should have, before all this happened. Something that's going to affect everything." The words hit me like a punch in the gut. My mind races, trying to catch up with the sudden rush of dread coursing through my veins. What could it be? What does he mean? Before I can ask, the door to the apartment creaks, startling us both. Footsteps echo from the hallway. I freeze, my heart stopping for a split second. Jordan's eyes widen in surprise, his hand automatically reaching for mine. Neither of us says a word, but the tension in the room thickens, and it's clear that whatever Jordan was about to say has to wait. The door opens slowly, and there, standing in the doorway, is someone neither of us expected to see. Someone who should have been left behind, but someone from Jordan's past. Someone who could change everything. I should have known. In all the time we've spent hiding from the world, I should have known that nothing, no matter how far we run, ever stays buried forever. The past is a shadow we can't outrun. And when it comes for you, there's no escaping it. But what happens next? What happens when the past returns to claim its own? When the very thing we've tried to outrun comes knocking at our door? I look at Jordan, and for the first time I see real fear in his eyes. Fear that goes deeper than anything I've ever seen before. And I know, whatever is about to happen, it will change everything. It will change us. And I don't know if we're ready for it. But there's no going back now. Whatever comes next, we'll face it. Together. Or apart. If you've been captivated by Justin and Jordan's journey, their passion and the complicated web of emotions they're navigating, don't let this story end here. Join us in the next chapter of The Cousin I Barely Knew. What happens when love challenges everything you've ever known? Can Justin and Jordan overcome the forces trying to tear them apart? Or will their pasts and their family's judgment stand in the way? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. And if you felt the raw emotion in their story, leave a comment below. Tell us your thoughts, your questions, and your theories on what happens next. This is just the beginning. The most intense, heart-wrenching moments are still to come. Don't just watch the story, be part of it. Join the conversation. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this story, and let's build this community together. The journey is far from over, and we need you here for the twists, turns, and the ultimate resolution of Justin and Jordan's love story. What's your prediction for the next chapter? Share it below. We are Pride Stories Unfiltered. Your #1 pride.